The modern operating system. And by that, I mean Windows. And by Windows, I mean Windows 11. And by Windows 11, I mean garbage. I'm still desperately holding on to Windows 10 because from what I hear, Windows 11 seems to be getting worse with every update. I don't want you to track me. I don't want you to enhance my experience by making my PC slower. I don't want your dumb AI tools shoved into Paint and Notepad of all places. You couldn't even let us have Notepad. That's just messed up, Microsoft. And I've had it with trying to dark pattern me into upgrading to a worse version of Windows. I'm done with it.
I'm escaping to the one place that hasn't been corrupted by capitalism.
DOS! And I'm not talking about William Gates' Microsoft spyware DOS. I'm talking about the greatest version of DOS to ever walk the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, FreeDOS is what I will say once I actually get it installed on this computer. But of all the DOS variants I could be using, 86DOS, PC-DOS, DR-DOS, Apple-DOS, PTS-DOS, CN-DOS, ADOS, HDOS, Los Dos Amigos, and Atari-DOS, why am I going with FreeDOS? Born from the efforts of Jim Hall in 1994 because he wasn't, quote, a fan of Windows 3X, and the fact that Microsoft said they'd be getting rid of DOS in the next version of Windows, FreeDOS was created as a community version of the disk-based operating system to provide continued support not just for the thousands of brilliant and perfectly cromulent DOS applications, but to continue to have an OS that just boots up and gets out of your way. Thanks to the contributions of dozens of developers over the last 30 years, FreeDOS has blossomed into the definitive version of DOS that you should install on your PC, with the latest version, FreeDOS 1.4, being released back in April of 2025. I've downloaded and Rufused up my USB, so I'm ready to install it on this brand new laptop, Intel Core 9 Ultra 185H CPU, 32GB of RAM, 2TB SSD laptop sent me by today's sponsor, Geekom. This is the Geekbook X14 Pro, the machine that I will be ripping the Windows heart out of and replacing it with a beautiful DOS core. But at least let's get a baseline first to see how this computer functions before undergoing that operation. Test bench scores are pretty good as you expect from a computer of this caliber, probably helped out by the 32GB of LPDDR5 RAM. 32GB in this economy? Keyboard is about what you'd expect, nothing to write home about, but the trackpad. That's probably the nicest trackpad I've ever had. 2 USB-C ports, 1 HDMI port, 1 USB-A port, a headphone jack, and a physical camera switch, a good feature for whichever side of the Pacific you happen to find yourself at. And while the ports may be a bit limited, it did come with this USB-C connected hub which provides the well-needed Ethernet port. And this is also a 2880 by 1800 120Hz OLED display, which is a beautiful looking screen and unfortunately not something I will be taking advantage of. You can find the X14 Pro and the 16-inch variant, the X16 Pro, at the link down below. But all I need right now is a tiny slice off the SSD, just a 10 gig cut for the DOS partition, and I probably won't even need that much, and actually that might be too big. We'll see. I'm just gonna power down here, gross a Copilot button. But don't worry, there's going to be no use for that where we're going. And then restart the PC and get into the BIOS. And let's turn off Secure Boot and set my boot option to the USB stick. And then save those changes. Security boot fail, that's what I like to see. Ooh, dumping me into the Windows BitLocker recovery. Not a great sign. So I was afraid of this. This is apparently a Class 3 UEFI machine, which means that the PC does not come with a compatibility support module, so it's only able to boot UEFI images. And FreeDOS is not a UEFI image, it requires the legacy support to emulate the PC's BIOS interrupts. So without that, basically I'm out of luck unless there's some kind of UEFI application that I can run that will provide legacy support as a kind of shim in between. So this is CSMWrap, which says it's a drop-in solution to enable legacy BIOS booting on UEFI-only systems. The way it should work is that I boot into the CSMWrap UEFI image, then CSMWrap will boot into my DOS image. I'm too lazy to reformat a USB so it boots automatically, so I'm just going to run this image straight from the UEFI command line. Yes! Show me the boot menu. That is not my USB, that's the Windows partition. As it turns out, CSMWrap has some issues with USB support, and beyond that, I didn't read the fine print. Direct access to legacy video modes doesn't work. So that pretty much destroys support for all DOS games, and without that, I might as well go and use a teletype. So plan B, I'm just gonna have the lightest schmear of Linux between my CPU and DOS environment. I don't want to say the word emulation, but emulation is pretty much the only way to go right now. Believe me, I'm more disappointed than anyone else right now, but it won't be a full 10-course Ubuntu or Mint installation. Again, just a very light, mostly transparent film of Alpine Linux to glue things together, just to boot the PC and get it into DOS. So step 1, install Linux to that 10 gig partition I made earlier. Step 2, download and run QEMU. Oh, no graphics support? Yeah, I don't think this distro comes with a desktop environment. Step 3, download a desktop environment. And finally, step 4, realize I installed Linux to the 1 gig Windows recovery partition and not the 10 gig partition. Step 1, install Linux to that 10 gig partition I made earlier. And well, anyways, now I'm here in the desktop environment, and I've written a launch script to start up my DOS computer via QEMU. It just went straight to the installation disk, perfect. Welcome to FreeDOS 1.4. Setup.bat I think is the right command. Welcome to the FreeDOS 1.4 installation program. If you choose to install this on your computer, you may overwrite the operating system you have now, like Windows. I wish. Drive C does not appear to be formatted. Sure, you can format the C drive. See how polite and informative FreeDOS is? Keyboard layout US. Full installation with apps and games, please. I'm gonna start a timer. Software package installation has completed. That was 5 minutes, not bad. Installation of FreeDOS is now complete. And here we are, welcome to freedom, boys. Now FreeDOS also has an additional bonus CD with extra programs on it, and I want to use it to install everything. All the apps, all the games, all the utilities, I want it all. Give me the full experience here. Lot of package unloading. I guess if I was a Linux dev, this would be my life every day. Alright, so now finally every folder is chocked full of programs. Ooh, including games. Oh, I gotta play this one, F-Mines? Ooh, mouse, fancy. Whoa, a zebra. You're telling me they had zebras back in the 90s? Oh, it's just Minesweeper. Okay, back to Linux for 1 second here. I've written this script that will automatically run on startup that will launch my DOS environment for me. All I have to do is restart the computer, and then at the UEFI command line, I just run the grub image that I renamed DOS, and that's it. Now that wasn't instant, but still pretty quick. And first thing first, I want to do a test bench to see how the system is doing. Now, I've downloaded a DOS test bench suite to this USB, and it's not that complicated to actually transfer files from my regular PC to my DOS PC. With a little Linux glue, I can mount my USB to a shared folder and then make sure that my QEMU startup script attaches that as a disk when booting up. It should be my G drive, and there it all is. So I just gotta copy these files over. And now let's run 3D Bench 2 looks interesting. Whoa, look at it go! Over 5,800 frames per second. What else? How about PCP Bench? Okay, 1524.2. In isolation, I honestly have no idea whether these scores are good or bad. So thanks to emulation, I've actually changed the CPU that QEMU is using from a regular 386 to a 486 to just passing the PC's own CPU for the system to use, and then ran the same benchmark test to get these results. Interestingly, the host CPU, which is just a single core from this actual PC, is still the fastest. But the 486 with the KVM flag set also performed nearly identical. The KVM flag just means that the instructions are executing directly on the host CPU without having to walk through a otherwise slower software interpretation layer. And since the instructions are the same, because it's just the x86 architecture, then for the most part, DOS is actually running straight on the bare metal. But one of the biggest myths I see regarding DOS is that DOS games will run faster on a fast CPU, sometimes so fast that the games are unplayable. Well, what does Doom have to say about that? Nothing, apparently. It's just going right at the same speed it always does. I figure this myth comes from the experience where a kid will write a game on their computer at school, then take it home where their computer was newer and it runs way too fast to play. If the game's logic and graphics speed are based directly on the CPU speed, perhaps by having a loop that says do nothing while the program counts to 28 million just to burn cycles before the next frame of logic, then yeah, a faster CPU will eat through those instructions faster, causing the game to speed up. But professional games and even amateur games use the PC's external hardware timer to make sure the logic on two different PCs is executed at the same real-time intervals. Just take a look at Microsoft Flight Sim. Frozen. Typical Microsoft. Just take a look at Chuck Yeager's Air Combat.
It's a great day for flying.
It's running just as smooth on my CPU as it would on a CPU from when it was released 35 years ago. And you know what? With all the development resources installed in FreeDOS, I think I'm just going to make my own DOS game as well. I mean, there's tons of assemblers and compilers here. Oh, is that BASIC? B-Waiter BASIC? B-Water? Oh, is it just Bywater BASIC? Obligatory 2-line BASIC program. What are the commands like for this? Oh, that's a lot of commands. Is that Tron? That's my favorite game. Oh, trace on. What does that do? That's neat, although I wish it was actual Tron. Oh, but I'll just make Tron myself then. Let's see what compilers are around here. NASM, I've used NASM before. I don't see a linker in here. Wait, but this is DOS, isn't it? I should just be able to directly assemble into a COM file. I'll just create a new directory for my code here. And while FreeDOS does come installed with Vim for all you addicts out there, I want to use the built-in editor, edit. And I'll just call this new file game.asm. The program will start at address 100 hex, and then I'll add a data section with a message, then the text section here for code, and looking at a DOS interrupt chart here, value 9 will output a string to the command line, and then 4ch should exit the program, and 00 will be the output code, and that should be it. I checked before and NASM is on the path, or whatever the path equivalent in DOS is, so I can call it from anywhere. And there's my COM file. And it broke. Awesome. Is it the exclamation mark that is throwing everything off? Weird, I guess it was. Hi, Future Inkbox here. So it was the exclamation point, but it wasn't at the same time. So notice how my file starts with the org100. Well, I knew that, and yet I still decided to put my data section at the top here, because when I write assembly, that's just normally where I put it. But with COM files, the starting address of the program will be exactly at 100 hex, and NASM isn't going to automatically move my text section to the top for me. What that means is that the ASCII values in hello DOS get run as instructions. And well, I just got lucky that besides the exclamation point, the data was all instructions which didn't break the program. My mistake. I was browsing Wikipedia on this machine like 5 minutes after this and figured it out. What? How can DOS work with internet? You don't believe? This is the Lynx web browser. Doesn't look like much, but wait till I navigate to Google. Wait for it. There you go, the Google HTML. Yeah, not so exciting. I think this is kind of trying to recreate the page, like I'm pretty sure this is the search text box, but I can't figure out how to trigger the search. Maybe it just doesn't work. Luckily, that was the text version of Lynx. Let's try the graphical version. Alright, now how does Google look? Not a whole lot better. Let's see how another website fares. How about notin.tokyo? The server doesn't have a valid certificate. Embarrassing. Oh, but that's so cool. The web on DOS. Oh, Smooth Mario Bros. Let me download that. There should be an NES emulator for DOS I can use. Alright, but it's just the IPS patch. That's okay, I'll still save it. Oh no, swap disk full. And everything's frozen now. Could be because I was browsing in 256 color mode, so let's stick with 16 color mode for now. Now, sites like Wikipedia, like I mentioned before, work more or less the same, so long as I'm browsing in English, no real Unicode support here. So obviously the browser works better with basic text and image sites, and JavaScript just gets thrown out, so no web games obviously. But sites like this are no problem. Dr. DOS Betamax presents the DOS operating system. All DOS, all day, alright. Oh, I like this guy. If you want to free yourself from the drudgery of desk road and point and clicking, huge bloatware programs like Windows, haha, got 'em. If you wish to be relieved of the general nuisance and tedium of the graphic user interface, upgrade to DOS. There are a lot of cool resources on this site, like Humor for DOS Users, not that funny, or the DOS fallacies. Those using DOS exclusively are Luddites. Well, I mean, I like Ludwig, but I don't watch them exclusively. DOS programs are limited and can only run in real mode. I mean, I try to keep it as real as I can, you know? DOS is not Y2K compatible. Busted all the way up to 2079. One can't access the graphic internet with DOS. All these DOS haters spreading their lies. Although they mention Arachne here being one of the better browsers, I did watch a video of a guy browsing the web on Arachne. That's where the "you don't believe" thing came from earlier. But I personally spent hours trying to set up Arachne and it just didn't want to function properly. Lynx just worked out of the box for me, so I'd say it's much better. No one is developing new programs for DOS. Alright, I'll get back to work. So the first thing my game needs is a proper timer. Like I talked about before, DOS keeps time by relying on an external programmable interval timer, the PIT, which interacts with the OS through hardware interrupts. DOS keeps the timer running at 18.2 Hz in order to manage the system clock, keep track of time, manage keyboard input, and all the rest. But since the timer is programmable, you can change it to go off however often you want. This program here should first save the old timer interrupt vector, then set the new PIT value so the timer will raise the interrupt at 60 Hz. Then this replaces the handler address with a custom handler I've written down below in the program, so when the interrupt is called, it'll jump to that function. Here it is. It increases a variable called timer ticks, then every third tick I call the old interrupt handler. That way the system clock and other keyboard related stuff will keep working, but otherwise I just tell the PIT to stop freaking out and then return. Now, I know 60 divided by 3 is not 18.2, but the system shouldn't get out of sync more than 6 minutes per hour of playtime, so just keep your watch on you. The main loop of the program simply outputs a message 8 times, once per tick. Then before closing the program, I have to restore the operating system's original timer interrupt vector, otherwise everything will break, and then exit. Brilliant, that's a 60 Hz timer. Of course, writing characters to the console through software interrupts like I'm doing here is going to be extremely slow, but luckily the game will be running in video mode. The question is, which one? The Quake menu gives a good sampling of how many video mode options are available. There are, in fact, an exceedingly many modes to choose from, but not all of them will be supported by every PC. Actually, it really depends on what your graphics card supports. I have Intel Arc graphics on this PC, so of course that means I have both VGA and EGA support. This program here should set the graphics mode to 320 by 200 in 16 color EGA. Then I can change a color in the 16 color palette through this interrupt. Notice this is interrupt 10, not interrupt 21. So these are BIOS interrupts, not DOS interrupts. Then it'll draw 1 pixel to the center of the screen, again through a BIOS interrupt. And that's how it works. I've also made it so that the escape key will exit the program. Oh, and the screen is still 320 by 200. That's big. The proper thing to do, which I do here now, is to save the original graphics mode and then restore it once the program has finished. But I've also changed the graphics mode I'm switching to from 16 color EGA to 256 color VGA, just so that things can be simpler. The actual graphics memory is kept on the graphics card itself, but it's mapped onto the CPU's memory map at address A0000. This can be accessed by the program through the extra segment register and the destination index register. However, in EGA mode, since it's limited to 16 colors, the way that color is stored is not as straightforward as it is in VGA mode, where each byte represents 1 pixel's index in the 256 color palette. So now this program will cycle through all the colors in the palette and write them to the screen, just because I want to see how it looks. That's cool. Didn't really know what I was expecting. The default VGA palette looks pretty basic, but if you rearrange it a little, you can see the 24 color shades in order, so I don't think I'll need to add anything to this palette. And I could just as easily turn the whole screen one color as well. Flash warning, you might want to close your eyes. And speaking of red, I would love to see if we can play some red and white machine games right now. I snuck in some ROMs to this machine earlier, along with a couple of different emulators. Let's just try Super Mario Bros. Here. I don't think it's supposed to look like that. How about Smooth Mario Bros? Okay, how about Kirby? Yeah, I figured if it didn't run Mario, nothing probably works. It could be that I don't have the sound drivers on this PC set up. Alpine doesn't come with sound installed, and I just haven't gone through that process yet. Or it might not work at all in this system. Who knows? But I do have bigger hopes for Z-SNES. Oh, it works! That's so cool! Okay, yeah, let me play some Mario this way. Oh, here we go. This is World 8, I guess? I don't know why it dropped me in here. How about F-Zero? Oh, that Mode 7 is notoriously hard for emulators to get right. Hang on, what button is go? Okay, here we go. No, this is doing really well. I don't think there's been any slowdown at all. Great job, Z-SNES. Oh, final lap. They only take the top 3. No, don't take third. Don't do it. No. That's fine. I'm not even mad. I'll go finish my own race car game. This function here should abstract graphics drawing into a drawRect function, where I just have the rectangle location and size in these variables, and then the function will draw the pixels with the specific color at that rectangle location. Pretty straightforward stuff. And this is the only graphics abstraction I need for the game, since I can just keep everything square. This is the meta process for driving the cars, subject to change of course, but these are the basic functions the game will go through. Easier said than done, because I wrote the game loop, but something went wrong and it accidentally crashed my system, which totally erased the entire game source code. I don't even know how this happened, but the whole file was zeroed out. Nor do I know whether to blame DOS, my Linux glue, or myself for not making a backup since the rectangle drawing code. After that soul-crushing event, I got lost in the DOS VR world. Whoa, the mouse controls are way too sensitive. Checked out a Chinese word processor, 软件. Oh, that's the traditional version. Wait, is this all traditional? Oh yeah, it is. And spent way too long playing Sword of the Samurai. Oh, what clan am I gonna be in? Oh, that's the Inkbox circle. Why is everything using the Chinese takeout font? What do I want to do? Travel? Oh, travel alone? Oh, is this open world? That's so cool. Are there random encounters here? Coastal pirates? In the middle of Japan? Yeah, let's take them on. For honor. I have a feeling only Americans worked on this game. How does this work? Oh, it's a maze. Oh, what button's the sword? Yeah, take that. Yeah, no one can stop me now. No, turn around. How do I turn around? No. Then I rewrote the entire car logic once more from scratch. So yep, just another lazy DOS day afternoon. Anyways, this is the J90 version of the program, but with a little speed up, a title screen, and a score counter. One final touch is to create a nice image for the title screen. I normally do this in Photoshop, but for DOS I've installed Deluxe Paint 2, which I think was pretty popular back in the day. Oh, is that a spray can? I haven't seen a spray can in a graphics editor in forever. Nice. Very nice. I've created 16 different color combinations for the players to choose from. And it works. Oh man, I love Tron so much. Of course, this game will be available at Notin.Tokyo, so you can download it on your own DOS system and give it a go. I know I wasn't serious about using DOS long-term at the start of this, but I've had so much fun in this operating system. Way more fun than I ever had trying to make the switch to Linux. I would not mind running FreeDOS on my laptop from now on. and I don't think it would mind much either. Special thanks once again to Geekom for sending the Geekbook X14 Pro over. It's available at the link in the description below with a 10% discount using the code IBX14Pro. I had a lot of fun messing around in DOS, but this is a very competent machine which would more than meet your needs for school, work, or casual gaming. So check it out down below. Special thanks to Jim Hall and the other legends who have contributed to FreeDOS throughout the years. You guys are the absolute best. And if you'd like to support my work further, then you can become a YouTube member or join the Patreon, or just come join us on the Discord. And one last thing, every time I was playing Tron in this video, it was me playing with both my hands at the same time.